The Grand Cascade Ballroom glittered with crystal chandeliers and the polished smiles of Seattle's elite. Victoria Ashford Matthews stood near the silent auction tables, her emerald Valentino gown catching the light perfectly as she angled herself for another selfie. At 32, she had cultivated an Instagram following of 1.2 million people who hung on her every post about luxury living, fashion, and what she called aspirational lifestyle content. "Victoria, darling, you look absolutely stunning," cooed Patricia Brennan, wife of a prominent tech executive. "That dress is to die for." Vintage Valentino, from their 2019 haute couture collection, Victoria said, her voice carrying just loud enough for nearby guests to hear. "I had it altered specifically for tonight's event. The original didn't photograph well, so I had the neckline restructured." Her husband, Dr. Owen Matthews, stood quietly beside her, uncomfortable in his tuxedo. At 35, Owen was a respected pediatric surgeon at Seattle Children's Hospital, known for his gentle bedside manner and innovative surgical techniques. He'd saved countless young lives, but tonight he felt invisible beside his wife's radiant performance. "Owen, get me a glass of champagne," Victoria said without looking at him, already composing her next Instagram caption in her head. "And make sure they use the good stuff, not that cheap Prosecco they're passing around." "Of course," Owen said softly, excusing himself from the conversation he'd barely been part of. He returned minutes later with 2 glasses of champagne, carefully navigating through the crowded room. The charity gala was raising money for children's literacy programs, a cause Owen deeply believed in, though Victoria had only agreed to attend because it offered premium networking opportunities. The evening's host called for a toast. Owen, standing beside Victoria, raised his glass along with the other guests. But as he turned slightly to acknowledge someone's greeting, his elbow bumped Victoria's arm. The champagne in her glass sloshed forward, splashing across the bodice of her emerald gown. "Oh my God!" Victoria shrieked, loud enough that conversation stopped in a ripple effect across the ballroom. "Owen, you complete idiot. Do you have any idea what you've just done?" Owen's face went pale. "Victoria, I'm so sorry. It was an accident." "An accident? An accident?" Her voice rose, sharp and cutting. "This dress cost $15,000. $15,000. And you just destroyed it with your typical clumsiness." Guests nearby had gone silent, some looking away in embarrassment, others watching with undisguised fascination. Owen could feel hundreds of eyes on them. "I'll get napkins." "We can blot it," Owen began, but Victoria cut him off. "Blot it? You think blotting will save vintage Valentino?" She laughed, but there was no humor in it. "This is exactly like you, Owen. You bumble through life in your sterile hospital rooms, having no idea how the real world works. Do you know how many photo opportunities you've just ruined? This was supposed to be content for the entire week." "Victoria, please," Owen said quietly, his voice strained. "Let's not do this here." "Why not? Everyone should know what I deal with." She turned to the watching crowd, her influencer smile firmly in place despite the fury in her eyes. "My husband, ladies and gentlemen. A brilliant surgeon, they tell me, but he can't manage to hold a glass of champagne without causing a disaster. I suppose we can't all be good at everything, can we?" A few people laughed nervously. Most looked uncomfortable. Patricia Brennan touched Victoria's arm. "Dear, these things happen. I'm sure it can be cleaned." "Patricia, with all due respect, you wear off-the-rack Nordstrom. You have no idea what this kind of damage means." Victoria's smile never wavered, but her words were ice. "Owen, don't just stand there looking pathetic. Get me napkins. Actually, get me several napkins and find someone who knows what they're doing." Owen's jaw tightened, but he nodded. "Right away." As he walked away, Victoria called after him, her voice dripping with mock sweetness that made it somehow worse. "And Owen?" Try not to spill anything on anyone else. I know coordination isn't your strong suit, but do make an effort." The laughter that followed was scattered and uncomfortable. Owen's ears burned as he made his way to the service area, his hands shaking slightly. Behind him, he could hear Victoria already spinning the incident into an anecdote, her voice bright and animated as she described living with a brilliant but hopelessly clumsy husband. When Owen returned with napkins and a member of the catering staff who knew about stain removal, Victoria barely acknowledged him. She was too busy posing for photos with Patricia and another influencer friend, angling the champagne stain to make it visible. "This is going to be such a good story," Victoria said to her. The morning after the gala, Victoria woke to find Owen already gone. A note on the kitchen counter read simply, "Early surgery. Home late." Oh, she barely glanced at it before diving into her phone. The gala incident had performed exactly as she'd hoped. Her post about the champagne disaster had gotten 47,000 likes and hundreds of comments praising her grace under pressure. She'd framed it perfectly, the long-suffering but loving wife, turning a mishap into a teachable moment about forgiveness and patience. When your husband accidentally ruins your vintage Valentino but you remember that love is about accepting imperfections, 2 hearts #relationship goals #real love #charity gala, her caption read, alongside a carefully curated series of photos showing her dabbing at the stain with a brave smile. The comments were exactly what she'd wanted. "You're such a saint for not being mad. My husband would be sleeping on the couch for a month. This is what real marriage looks like, choosing love over material things." Victoria smiled, already planning her next post. She didn't notice that Owen hadn't liked or commented on her post. He always engaged with her content. It was one of their unspoken rules. Over the following days, Victoria became aware of a shift in Owen's behavior, though she initially dismissed it as him sulking about the gala. He came home later each evening, citing surgeries and patient consultations. When he was home, he was unfailingly polite, making dinner, asking about her day, agreeing with whatever she said, but there was a hollowness to his politeness that unsettled her. "Owen, I'm thinking about doing a couple's photo shoot for my feed," Victoria announced one evening while he cooked dinner. "Something authentic and real. Maybe we could do it at the hospital? You in scrubs, me bringing you coffee, very power couple balancing career and love vibes." "If that's what you want," Owen said, not looking up from the vegetables he was chopping. "Don't you think it's a good idea?" "Sure, Victoria. Whatever you think is best." She frowned. Usually, Owen would push back, suggest alternatives, express concern about patient privacy. His passive agreement felt wrong somehow. "Are you angry about the gala?" she asked. "No." "Then what's wrong with you?" "Nothing's wrong. I'm just tired." He plated the stir-fry with careful precision. "I've been working long hours." It was true. Owen had requested additional surgical rotations, volunteered for weekend shifts, and essentially restructured his entire schedule to minimize time at home. But Victoria didn't know the real reason. 3 days after the gala, Owen had met with attorney Sarah Chen, a divorce specialist recommended by his colleague Dr. James Park. Sarah had listened to Owen's story with the careful attention of someone who'd heard similar tales too many times. "Do you have documentation?" Sarah had asked. "Of what?" "The emotional abuse. Public humiliation. Financial control. Any of it." Owen had looked surprised. "I never thought of it as abuse. She's just difficult sometimes. Dr. Matthews, let me be direct. Your wife publicly humiliated you at a charity event, laughed about it, and turned it into social media content without your consent. That's not difficult. That's abusive." Sarah had leaned forward. "How long has this been happening?" "Years," Owen had admitted quietly. "But it's gotten worse. She monitors my phone, controls our finances even though I earn significantly more, decides which friends I can see, criticizes me constantly in front of others." He'd trailed off, hearing how it sounded when spoken aloud. "I need you to start documenting everything," Sarah had said. Screenshots of her posts about you, witness statements from people who've seen her behavior, financial records showing the discrepancy in earnings versus control. "Can you do that?" Owen had nodded, feeling something like hope for the first time in years. Now, 2 weeks later, Owen had a file folder growing thicker by the day. He'd screenshotted every social media post where Victoria had mocked him, obtained statements from colleagues who'd witnessed her berating him at hospital events, and documented the financial arrangements that gave Victoria complete control over their joint accounts despite his significantly higher income. Victoria remained oblivious to his preparations. She was too focused on her next big project, a vow renewal ceremony. "I've been thinking," she announced over breakfast one Saturday morning. Owen had actually been home because he'd worked a night shift and needed sleep. "Our 7th anniversary is in 2 months. We should do a vow renewal." "Why?" Owen asked, genuinely confused. "Because it's romantic. And it'll be amazing content. I already have sponsors interested, a dress designer, a florist, a venue." Her eyes gleamed with the familiar light of a successful campaign. "We can do a whole series leading up to it. 7 years of love, showing our journey together." "Our journey," Owen repeated softly. "Yes. The ups and downs, the growth, how we've overcome challenges together." She was already scrolling through venue photos on her iPad. "I'm thinking a waterfront location, very elegant but intimate. Maybe 200 guests." "That's not intimate." "It is for an influencer wedding, Owen. Don't be difficult." She barely looked up. "I need you to write vows. Make them emotional but not too sappy. My followers appreciate authenticity." Owen set down his coffee carefully. "Victoria, can I ask you something?" Do you love me?" Finally, she looked at him, her expression irritated by the interruption. "What kind of question is that?" "Of course I do. We're married." "That's not an answer." "Owen, I don't have time for one of your philosophical conversations. I have 3 calls with sponsors today and a photo shoot this afternoon." She stood, already moving toward her home office. "Just write something nice for the vows, okay? Nothing too medical or boring." After she left, Owen sat in the silent kitchen and called Sarah Chen. "I want to move forward with the divorce," he said. "But I need your advice on timing." "What are you thinking?" "She's planning a vow renewal ceremony. 200 guests, live streamed to her followers, the whole production." Owen took a breath. "I want to serve her the papers there." Sarah was quiet for a moment. "Dr. Matthews, I understand the appeal, but a public confrontation could backfire. It might make you look vindictive. She's made me look foolish in public for 7 years. She's turned our marriage into content without my consent. She's planning to do it again at this ceremony, using fake vows to boost her brand while treating me like a prop." Owen's voice was steady. "I don't want revenge, Sarah. I want honesty. I want to tell the truth, just once, where everyone can hear it. Not to humiliate her, but to stop being invisible." Another pause. "Let me think about how to structure this legally. If we're going to do it, we do it right. You'll need a speech prepared, documentation ready, everything by the book." "I have 2 months to prepare," Owen said. "I'll use them well." As he ended the call, Owen felt lighter than he had in years. Victoria thought she was planning a vow renewal. She had no idea she was planning her own reckoning DR. Elena Rodriguez had noticed Owen Matthews long before they officially met. She'd seen him in the pediatric wing, the tall surgeon with sad eyes who spoke to frightened children with infinite patience, who stayed late to explain procedures to worried parents, who remembered every kid's name and favorite color. Their first real conversation happened in the hospital cafeteria 3 weeks after the gala. Elena had just finished a difficult session with a 7-year-old trauma survivor when she spotted Owen sitting alone, staring at his untouched sandwich. "Mind if I join you?" she asked. "The child psychologist table is full of people discussing their feelings, and I need a break from feelings." Owen looked up, surprised, then gestured to the empty chair. "Please." Elena sat, studying him with the trained eye of someone who spent her days reading emotional cues. "You're Dr. Matthews, right? Pediatric surgery?" "Owen," he said. "And you're Dr. Rodriguez. You worked with Sarah Kim last month, the 8-year-old with the car accident trauma. You remember that? You helped her feel safe enough to let me examine her injuries. That's not easy with trauma kids." Owen managed a small smile. "I'm grateful." They fell into easy conversation about their work, about the challenges of treating children who'd experienced trauma, about the small victories that made the hard days worthwhile. Elena found Owen thoughtful and genuinely caring, so different from the bumbling husband Victoria portrayed on social media. Because Elena knew exactly who Victoria Ashford was. She'd seen the gala post, had watched Victoria's content with growing discomfort over the past few years. The way Victoria talked about her husband, the casual cruelty disguised as humor, had made Elena's professional instincts scream. "Can I ask you something personal?" Elena said after they'd been talking for 30 minutes. "And you can absolutely tell me to mind my own business." Owen tensed. Slightly. "Okay. Are you all right? I don't mean to overstep, but you seem like you're carrying something heavy." For a moment, Owen considered deflecting. But there was something about Elena's direct kindness, her lack of judgment, that made him want to be honest. "I'm getting divorced," he said quietly. "My wife doesn't know yet. But I've filed papers, worked with an attorney. I'm just waiting for the right moment." Elena's expression softened with understanding rather than pity. "That must be incredibly difficult." "It's actually a relief. The difficult part was admitting I needed to do it." Owen looked at his hands. "I've spent 7 years being told I'm not enough, not interesting enough, not successful enough in the right ways, not worthy of basic respect. I started believing it. And now? Now I'm remembering that I save children's lives for a living. That I'm good at what I do. That being quiet doesn't mean being worthless." He met her eyes. "Your work with Sarah helped me realize that. The way you validated her feelings, helped her understand that what happened to her wasn't her fault. I needed to hear those same principles applied to myself." Their friendship developed naturally after that. Coffee breaks became a regular occurrence. They'd consult on shared patients, discuss cases, decompress after difficult days. Elena never pushed Owen to talk about his marriage, but when he did, she listened with the same careful attention she gave her young patients. "She's planning a vow renewal," Owen mentioned one afternoon as they walked through the hospital gardens during lunch. 2 months from now. Big production, live-streamed, 200 guests. And you're going through with it?" "In a way. I'm planning to serve her divorce papers there." He saw Elena's concerned look and quickly added, "Not to humiliate her. I've prepared a statement, factual, measured, just the truth. About years of emotional abuse, financial control, public mockery. My attorney has reviewed it. Everything documented, everything provable." Elena was quiet for a moment. "Owen, I support you getting out of an abusive situation. But are you sure a public confrontation is the answer? That feels like playing by her rules, making it a spectacle. If I do it privately, she'll spin it. Turn me into the villain in her story, the husband who abandoned her after she stood by him through his issues." Owen shook his head. "This way, the truth is on record. Witnessed. Not filtered through her lens. Just promise me you're doing this for the right reasons. Not revenge, but freedom." "I promise." Owen smiled at her, the first genuine smile Elena had seen from him. I'm not trying to destroy her, Elena. I'm trying to stop being destroyed by her. As the weeks passed and the vow renewal approached, Owen and Elena's friendship deepened. They discovered shared interests beyond work, both loved classical music, both volunteered at the same children's literacy program, both valued substance over performance. Victoria noticed Owen mentioning a colleague more frequently but didn't consider it a threat. She was too absorbed in planning the perfect ceremony, negotiating with sponsors, choreographing every moment for maximum social media impact. "The florist wants to do purple orchids," Victoria announced one evening, not looking up from her phone. I told her absolutely not. Purple doesn't photograph well for my skin tone. We're going with white roses and gold accents. Okay, Owen said simply. You're supposed to have an opinion, Owen. This is your vow renewal too. Is it? Because it feels like your production and I'm just a prop. Victoria finally looked at him, irritation flashing across her face. Don't start. We've been over this. Building my brand benefits both of us. The sponsorships pay for our lifestyle. Your lifestyle, Owen corrected quietly. I pay for our lifestyle. You control how my earnings are spent. Because you have no sense of investment or image management. Victoria's voice rose. Left to yourself, you'd dress in the same 5 shirts and eat hospital cafeteria food. I've made you presentable. Owen stood, placing his plate in the sink with careful precision. Right. Of course. Thank you for making me presentable. He left the room, and Victoria returned to her phone, completely missing the finality in his tone. The night before the vow renewal, Owen met Elena for coffee at their usual spot outside the hospital. Last chance to back out, Elena said gently. Say the word, and I'll help you plan a quiet exit instead. Owen shook his head. I need to do this. Not for revenge, but for closure. For every time she made me feel worthless, every person who witnessed it and said nothing, every part of myself I lost trying to be what she wanted. He looked at Elena. I need to be honest, publicly, just once. Then I can move forward. Then I'll be there, Elena said. In the audience. Not to gawk, but to support you.